Good morning, everyone. We are here for another episode of Unlock Your Way with STK, and we are here with the incredible Christian Ray Flores. Welcome, Christian.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Oh,
STK is in the
you're
house.
so welcome. You are a coach, a rock star, a branding expert, all these incredible things, and your profile really stood out to me. Tell us a little bit about what you do.
I I'm professionally ADHD, so I do
Yes.
several things.
Aren't
I think the
most
two
of
main
us?
exactly. I mean, it seems to be going around.
Yeah.
I'm a performance coach. That's one of the things that I do. Um, we basically help people who are really purpose-driven professionals, and they want to be at the peak of their calling,
Mm,
at the peak of their industry, at the peak of their life, consistently forever.
mm,
That's so it's a very specific group of people and type of person, I guess. And I also have a media company called Third Drive Media, and we do a little bit of a broader scope of things. We're essentially a digital media company, but we do basically brand strategy and executing on it, which is sort of an interesting combo because we
mm,
help our clients who are either nonprofit leaders or tech founders, startup founders, or just personal brand people to refine their messaging, their positioning, the very essence of who they are, so they can stand out. But also, we have a great, incredible team, award-winning team that executes on this. So this is photo, video, web, brand, logo, the whole thing. So those are the two main things I do. And then for philanthropy, we have an after-school academy in Mozambique, in Africa, called the Sand Academy, and we help children in very, very poor areas to get out of poverty. And it's a small project, but highly focused,
mm.
not just on sort of alleviating poverty, but eliminating poverty for the lives of those kids who basically have nothing. They can't even reach the bottom rung of the economic ladder, essentially.
Wow. Wow. Um, One thing you said really stands out to me, and we'll get to the charity work because I believe that's important. But the thing about execution, I notice the number one issue with the entrepreneurs that I work with is that they can have all the theory and the coaching in the world, but if they're not executing and doing all of those things, they remain stuck and they wonder why program after program, coach after coach, why they're not moving forward. Is that one of the reasons why execution was important to you?
Yes, I think generally speaking, in coaching and in sort of personal brand building, it's sort of the same issue. You have
Mm,
to sort of absorb, you have to learn the things that you need to learn, expand your skill set. Um, but that doesn't stick, right? So we can
right.
read, you have all these famous posts on X, like I've read 100 books this year, and
Mhm.
this is my top 5 books.
Yeah.
I know for a fact that that person can be a great media person, but 100 books you're not going to be able to absorb at all, not even
Mhm.
close to it, right? So, okay, great. Grabs attention, that sort of thing. But I would say both on the media side and on the coaching side, my emphasis is on massive action.
Mm. Love.
And it really is. It's just you actually can't really learn without doing. You can't.
Oh, yeah.
You can listen, you can
Yeah.
hear, you can say,
Yeah.
"Amen, preach it." You can say
Mhm.
all those things. You can be inspired for a minute and a half.
Mhm.
And you can even draw a plan. But if you don't act on it, you actually have not learned that thing. You
Yes.
haven't. You haven't.
I love that so much because I think that most learning comes from screwing something up, doing it wrong, uh, trying something and it not working. Like when I look back over the last 35 years, And I think, what are the biggest lessons? What are the most impactful things? It was all from failure. It was all from not knowing something, doing it anyway. It didn't work. And I had to go back and reiterate or redo or tweak something.
That's right.
And I think that so many people are scared to do that, that they don't take that first action step. So I read a ton of books too, but I decide on one action step per book. And even if it's something small, one little action step can make a huge difference.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I use this analogy sort of from my backstory. I grew up in 4 different countries,
Mhm.
3 continents by age 7, which is really unusual, I think. And what I learned from that is sort of this ability, the skill that was almost like it was really more for survival. I had to learn very quickly.
Yeah.
So I became a really good learner because I wanted to fit in, right? So you go from country to country to country,
Mhm.
and people look different, they sound different, the languages are different, the intonations, the body language, all of it is different,
Mhm.
and you have to sort of absorb it. And what I learned from that is this technique that I now help teach people. And I can teach you right now. It's very easy.
Oh,
It's
okay.
called it's called immersive learning. So to give you an example, did you learn a foreign language in high school by chance?
Yes.
Did do you speak it now?
No.
Okay, so the reason why you don't speak it now is because you didn't immersive
Correct.
learn. You just
Yeah.
intellectually learned, right? But
Yes.
if you were learning that language by moving to that country in 6 months, just 6 months, you
Mhm.
would be still speaking it now, as a matter of fact.
Yes.
And the reason for that is because immersive learning has 3 elements that are really important. One, it's that it's daily, like it's continuous, right?
Mhm.
It doesn't stop. It's not once a week, it's not 3 hours a week. Second, it's interactive, and it's
Yeah.
experimental, right?
Yes.
So that's sort of what you said. And it, people think, oh, kids are great with languages. That's why they're learning. No, no, no. It's not because you're a kid. It's because you have immersive learning going on, right?
Mhm.
So if you want to build anything good in life, you can write a book, you become an artist, you want to build a business, develop this new product. All of those things require more than the core competency, all of them,
Mhm. Yeah.
because you need to learn whatever editing, sound production, people skills across the board. Like even your core skill is not enough, right? Marketing, the list goes on and on and on. Anybody who wants to build anything needs to learn more stuff than just the core thing that they do.
Yes.
And people go, well, it's just not like it's not me. I just want to be a writer. I just want to write books, and magically people all over the world will buy those
Yes.
books and will live happily ever after. And I'll live in this mansion, and all of that. So we think those things about everything, right? Oh,
Mhm.
I just want to treat people. I just want to be this healer. I want
Yes.
to develop a product, and it, I can't even tell this product is going to change the world. But I don't know what's happening. I don't know what's happening. People just don't see it, and like all of those things,
Mhm.
right? So we all lack skills, essentially. That's what it is, right? And people give up, and people don't live out their dreams. Immersive learning is being a very realistic person about the core skills, and then very realistic about the things that you suck at. Pick a thing that you it's essential for your success long term. Let's say it's marketing, right? Marketing is sort of
Mhm.
a or sales is just a massive obstacle in people's lives.
Yes.
You pick sales and you go, okay, I'm going to figure out sales. How do you learn sales? I, you can say, I'm bad at sales, I'm not a salesperson. That is all lies,
Mhm.
completely lies, right? What you do is pick an authority in sales, or a book in sales, or a course in sales, or a coach in sales, and you do something every day. You learn something every day, you experiment with that something every single day, and you get feedback every day.
Mhm.
You do that for literally 20 minutes a day. And you know that theory about the 10,000 hours, the mastery thing? If you break down that time in a year, you'll have the 10,000 hours, 1 year.
I love this so much because I always pick a topic that I'm gonna learn about, and I go deep on that, only that topic for 30 days. So filter my inbox, all my reading is on that topic. If there's a video to watch, it's only that topic. And I just made a little second brain for myself with Google's new Notebook LM feature. And I created all these notes on sales, all different sales books, all different insights, all different gurus' information, and combined it all together and had it make me a study guide for getting better at sales, from attraction marketing to authentic conversations. And it turned out so good. It's the first time I ever did it on a topic. And I shared the study guide with one of my clients. And he was like, "Where'd you get this?" And I said, "I made it from
Yeah.
all of my notes." And so now I feel like I have an outline of a learning track for myself. And it made it so simple. But the point, to creating that second brain for yourself and going deep on a topic and being immersive in that topic. I studied French in high school, but when I went to Italy for 2 weeks, by the end of the 2 weeks, I was
Hmm.
ordering everything in Italian. I was asking for directions in Italian.
Exactly.
I was doing, ordered dinner
Yeah.
and wine and
Yeah.
everything I needed in Italian
Yep.
because you're in it, and
So
it's so good.
don't ever say I'm bad at sales.
Right,
I'm just not a creative person. I'm
right.
just not a people's person. I don't know how to manage and inspire. Don't say any of those things. It's
Yeah,
just not true. You're just not willing to focus and put in the incremental daily work. You
yeah.
don't want to be immersed. You don't want to do the hard work and to fail and sort of feel a little bit awkward.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
then I think the last piece that it's really important that we need to point out here is that you need accountability. So you need someone to say, you
Yes.
don't say it this way, you say it that way. And
Yes.
that's the hardest thing to find. That's why you need a coach or a cohort or a community or a mentor. Actually, maybe all of the above.
Oh, I
That's the
think
miss.
all of the above. All of the above. You
That's the
need all of
missing
the above.
element. Yeah, because you
Yeah.
don't get feedback. The
Right.
world, real life needs to give you feedback.
Yes.
And if you don't put yourself in a situation where you get constant feedback, you're actually not going to progress because you'll just sort of learn and not do, or you'll learn, you'll do, and then not learn from the mistakes, or
Right.
you'll learn, you'll do, and then you make some mistakes and you give up because it's just discouraging. But
Yeah.
if you
Well,
have the feedback, the community, the
mhm.
guidance, that's when that becomes rocket fuel for you.
I love that so much because I think feedback, once you know yourself well enough
Yeah.
to receive negative feedback and not get all emotional about it, right? To really receive, "Hey, I noticed you did this and, it didn't go so well," or asking really hard questions about what you're doing, about yourself, and be able to receive it if it's not praise, and then make changes, pivot, make those changes. That's the skill of a really great entrepreneur. Somebody who's willing to receive that negative feedback and not let ego get in the way of that, I guess, to be able to say, to be able to look at yourself outside of yourself and be able to make changes based on that negative feedback. Sometimes it's better than positive feedback.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I think what gets in the way is the ego. I think what you're saying is interesting. That's why there's this myth that children have like maybe 10x the neuroplasticity of a adult. I
Mhm.
actually don't think that's true. The
Mm.
latest sort of studies that came out basically say that we're neuroplastic throughout our lives. What happens is we become stagnant in our own minds and the ego gets in the way. So, oh, I'm not supposed to suck.
Mhm.
I am whatever, 30, 35. I'm supposed to be masterful at everything in life, which
Right.
is completely a myth. It's just not true. And that's why the people that succeed, they're very eclectic. in their back in the background. Usually, if you look at the origin story of like a Steve
Mhm.
Jobs, who's not even a computer guy, he's a visual guy. He studied calligraphy. He was interested in all kinds of different things. Somehow that really came together with Apple, right? And
Mhm.
Wozniak obviously being the brains of the computer stuff. But that's just how it works. And the cool news is that anybody can become that. That's what I love about
Mm.
why I love talking about it, right? And for
Yeah.
me, I can say, if I just say, yeah, I was, 9, I learned 4 languages by age 9. I'm still fluent in all 4, by the way, right?
Amazing.
Um, and then I was able to do 5 different careers, not just skills, but actual distinct careers that I can point out and say I was really good at these 5
Mhm.
things that I and I was able to just shift industries altogether. And people go, "Oh, you're so talented." It's not about talent at all, actually. I think talent
Mhm.
is really overrated, and talent is really, we hide behind these sort of words of talent or charisma or giftedness, and maybe there's an element, right? Maybe
Mhm.
there's an element. There's a predisposition towards one thing, but really, it's about the ability to learn, expand quickly, the speed of learning,
Mm.
that creates the thing that we now interpret as talent or charisma.
Yeah.
And I believe every person is capable of doing that if they understand just the core principles of this.
Well, that's what my upcoming book is actually about, and, from that reframe of that, it's actually the ability to pivot, the ability to grow, the ability to change when you need to change. I now understand why your story resonated with me, because I've had 5 careers as well, very distinct, totally different. And it's almost like when you become good at reinvention or pivoting, you crave it. And I realized that doing that for other people was a huge passion, helping them do that, because I've done it so many times. And I wonder if that's true for you and why you're doing what you're doing now.
Yeah, I think it may be, actually, now that you bring it up, because what comes easy to me,
Mhm.
it seems impossible to other people. And I
Yes.
know, I know for a fact that it's not their. They're totally capable of doing that.
Mhm.
They're just not seeing it right, and they're feeling too much stuff. And if they just understood the principles, the core stuff, right, the
Yeah.
pillars of this thing, anybody can do it. And I think you're right. I think it's really cool to say, hey, if you allow me to coach you, and if you actually allow me to trust the process, right?
Mhm.
Because you don't see around corners like I do in this particular area. If you allow me to do that, I promise you this is going to work for you. And
Yeah.
to see people just sort of relax and breathe and go, okay, I trust you, man, I trust you. I really
Yeah.
want this. And to see them just light up, and go, oh my gosh, I can totally do this. It's incredibly rewarding. It really
It is.
is.
It is. And I was just thinking about numerous clients all at the same time who had that moment of, like, much like I did, realizing that those past careers were actually all pivotal in doing what I do now.
Yeah.
Seeing the connection between being a dental hygienist for 20 years, starting businesses on the side while I was doing that, the interesting piece, and when I put it together, of the practice of building rapport with people, 30 hours a week, every hour was a new person, a new person, a new person. I had to make them feel safe and they had to trust me. And they were from all different walks of life. And oh my gosh, the experience and the richness of that, when I really looked at it, was how many people have I had one on one conversations with in 20 years of that career? And there's nothing to be afraid of now. 15 years ago, when I came into the online space to be a coach, it was like, ooh, how do I talk to people? Oh, silly, you've been doing it for 20 years. And that awareness of the past connections to your current career, to me, that's what makes the pivot so magical, is helping people see that connection. And it's the perfect segue for me to ask, how did being an actual rock star,
Yeah,
and yes, I watched the videos.
you
So
did. You,
I did. I had to. I had,
with all of the hair, yeah.
yes. Yeah. I had to. How did that career, being on stage, being, a well-known persona, how did those skills from that career fuel this career that you have now?
I think essentially one thing that's important is when you're a musician and especially if you have a choice, right? Because there are musicians that are just that's all they do, that's all they can do, that's all they know how to do. They're all into this music thing because the
Mhm.
probability of success is like very close to zero, right? It's even if you go to college for music,
Yeah.
the percentage of musicians who become self-funded, financially independent are very, very, maybe 1%. So that we all know that. And if you have a choice, you then still choose that, which was sort of my thing because I got a master's degree in economics and all of my friends were going into finance and banking and trade and stuff like that. And I still chose the artistic way because I was super bored with this other thing. Like there was
Mm.
this intuition. And I think trusting intuition rather than trusting uh, staying in your lane, so to say, is
Yeah.
one really interesting thing.
Yeah.
So because I made that choice, I can now I can talk to people and say, so what lights you up? Like, and sort of
Mhm.
start digging about the things that are there just under the surface that are just gifts, and there's passion there, there's skills, there's insights there. Even within their own industry, they can be just in the wrong lane in their own industry,
Mhm.
but people don't make the switch because they fear the uncertainty, right? And I would say having that first experience doing something really crazy, like I'm gonna be a musician, right? And be like a starving
Mhm.
artist and writing songs in the kitchen and the subway and stuff like that. And
Mhm.
yes, just getting by barely, and then seeing that all of a sudden start getting traction. And I got into sort of small clubs and bigger clubs and sports arenas, TV, magazine covers, radio, the whole thing, right? This is before the internet. It really taught me this one thing, is that it's not really about the statistical probability of you succeeding at all.
Mm.
Because people go, well, it's 1 in a million chances, why would I do that?
Right.
Well, you're thinking of yourself as a statistic then,
Mhm.
and you're not a statistic. You're a human being, right? You're a
Yeah.
human being with insights, gifts, passions, even origin story dimensions that equip you very uniquely for certain things, and you don't even pay attention to that.
Mhm.
So you think being a cog in a machine is risky? Yeah,
Mm.
because the machine will keep you safe. The machine will never keep you safe. The machine doesn't care,
Right.
right? But being uniquely qualified for something and mining for that and creating a brand out of it, that is that is the risky thing to do. And I think it's not actually the other thing. The cog in the machine move is the risky move.
Well,
So
isn't that interesting?
yeah, yeah. So to me, that's sort of a self-evident thing
Yeah.
because I've seen it work, right? And
Mhm.
when you have your first success at age 25, 24, that
Mhm.
really sinks in that possibility is there.
Yes.
So I can be in my 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and I can say, yeah, possibility is there. So I will start this other business. And when people go, why would you do that? How do you know it's going to work? I don't know if it's going to work, but I know possibility is there.
Mhm.
And also, I'm not afraid of sort of the perceived consequences of failure. I think that's a big piece, right?
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you a story. I think to illustrate, I was in my, I think I was 12 or 13. We were living in Africa at the time, and my family we were traveling. We're having this sort of big vacation. So traveling across the coast of Mozambique, and then we had to hop over to this little island called Santa Carolina, and we're on this little plane, those tiny
Yes.
planes,
Yes.
Um, and it sort of flies pretty low. So we're looking down and sort of like, I don't know, maybe 2, 3 miles from the coast, we see this dark figure and we go, "What's that?" And the pilot says, "Oh, that's João." João was like John in Portuguese.
Mhm.
And I'm like, what's he doing in the middle of nowhere?" He goes, "Oh, he does spear fishing for the hotel. He gets us fish and lobster and things like that." And we're like, "Well, where's the boat?" And he goes, "Well, he doesn't have a boat. He just swims out there." And we're like, "Okay." And so we meet this guy Joao, and he's like
Mhm.
a real life Aquaman situation, right? And we're like, "Hey, can you show us around?" Because we were spearfishers. We wanted to find the good spots, so we hired him, paid him a little money, and we spent a lot of time with him. And it was amazing to see him first of all do his thing. It was amazing, and
Mhm.
also I remember distinctly the conversation that taught me about fear, something about
Mhm.
fear, because he was telling us that the lobster, which is sort of the premier thing that he was looking for, was usually congregate under rocks.
Mhm.
Um, then the other thing under the rocks is sharks because they sleep
Oh,
there.
okay.
They because the sharks need to keep moving for oxygen to go through the gills, and if they go under a rock, they can be still, but the current that goes under the rock oxygenates there, so that's how they sleep. And I'm like, "Oh, cool, interesting." And I go, "So what do you do when you see a shark and you have to get to the lobster?" And he goes, "I just shake them." And we're like, "What?" And he goes, "Yeah, I just grab him by the fin, I shake him, and they swim away." And that image stuck with me forever because what it shows me is very simple. Because he was
Wow.
not crazy,
Mhm.
he was not supernatural. He just knew that the probability of a shark attacking you is very close to zero.
Mhm.
Size matters. You're bigger than most sharks that are under those rocks. If you shake them by the fin, they'll just swim away. That's all. There's nothing to it. It's just a perceived fear, right?
Mhm.
And basically the image of, like, in life, if you think about it, if you want to get to the lobsters of life, the good stuff, you
Yes.
have to shake a shark.
I love it.
You know,
I love
you
it.
have to. You have to. And those sharks are, it could be all kinds of things. So okay, so I'll
Mhm.
fail. Okay, imagine what the consequences of those things would be. I'll
Yeah.
have less money. Okay, are you going to be hungry? Are you going to lose your house? Probably not. If you're in the U.S., if you're in the Western world, are you gonna are people gonna critique you? Maybe a little bit. Are they gonna hate you? Not really.
Mhm.
Especially not in America, where failure is sort of this almost like a badge of honor. Fail well, fail forward. All of those things. Um, okay, what's the worst that can happen? Actually, and people start thinking about it, they go, actually, not that much. So
Right.
you
Right.
know, so so why don't you go for it if you're passionate about this thing?
Mhm.
And people go, I don't know why I don't go for it, actually. And they shake the shark, basically.
Mhm.
So to me, that's a big thing, right? And in coaching and guidance and in any mentor that can see around corners, and you want to pursue something and you're just, I don't
Mm.
know about this, and you can make decisions like my friend Joao. You can shake the shark and you get to the lobster only that way, actually. I don't think you can do anything in life that is important, interesting,
Mm.
that enriches the human beings around you without shaking a shark or two.
Agreed. Agreed. Anything. I mean, even some
Yeah.
things for yourself
Yeah.
require
Yeah.
require that. And do you think it's a combination of courage? Do you think it's courage, grit, maybe just the vision, being pulled forward by that vision of what the future could be like that makes it easier? Is it a combination of all those things?
Yeah, I think it's a combination. I think it's a mystery, quite frankly, right? But I
Mm.
would say I really believe that emotion is a driving force here.
Mhm.
And we live in a very cerebral culture. So logic sort of trumps emotion, essentially.
Mm.
It's illogical, it's irrational. So that really has almost like there's a tyranny of that in Western culture.
Yes.
And one of the advantages, I think, of growing up overseas and all over the place is that you see glimpses of not that. And you
Mm.
realize that emotion makes a big difference.
Mhm.
So you can trust your instinct, your deeper emotional response to certain things, more than you think you can. But we don't trust it. We just go, "Oh, that's just,
Yeah.
impulse and passion. Passion doesn't pay off, et cetera, et cetera." I really disagree. I think passion drives us to persist, to persevere. When things are grim, only passion gets us through that, slump. Um, with music, it's sort of a very natural thing, right? It's like I just love music. I feel like I think I can do something good about it, and no one knows this. No one believes you, and actually, you'd probably suck in the beginning anyway. So there's
Mhm.
no evidence to it in the first place. Um, but if you follow that and you go, I'm going to just get better. But that's really true of anything, as a matter of
Mhm.
fact. So whether you're in investment banking, or you want to become a writer, a ballet dancer, or a doctor, if you don't have that passion, you're going to become really mediocre, I think.
Agreed.
And you can be well paid mediocre,
Mhm.
but you're going to be mediocre, and that's uninspiring. I think it's underwhelming. I think all kinds of bad things happen just downstream from mediocre and from lack of passion.
Agreed.
So, sort of tapping into what lights me up, what makes me feel fully alive, actually, what is that? And then pulling at that thread, which is a torturous process in the first place, right? Because you
Yes.
don't know what's on the other end.
Yes.
I think more people, if more people do that, they will find treasures there.
Well, I think that's why I became so passionate about helping people do that, find their intellectual property where it crosses their skill level, where it crosses their challenge level, learning level. Like, because I had to do it for myself and got such rewards from doing it, I think that's what made me passionate about helping other people do it who didn't see that as the path to getting what they wanted.
Hmm.
And something else you said kind of made me think about sales, since we were talking about learning about sales earlier, that if when I have been most successful selling something, like just anything, I was passionate about it.
Yeah.
Um, my very first business, I sold snowboards and skateboards. And I was always better at selling the snowboards and the clothing and all the things because I was passionate about actually doing it and traveling all over the world to do it. And I think about that. Well, that's why I was better at it because I knew it, I lived it, I was breathing the sport. So it
Yeah.
became easier in my coaching life, and I'm sure you notice this too. When you sell coaching, like nobody has a budget for coaching, right? They don't wake up in the morning and say, "Oh, I have an extra, you know, X amount of dollars and I'm going to hire a coach." Like, unless you're already a coach, you're not thinking like that,
No, 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 no. And that's
right?
why actually most successful people, I think there's been studies that ultra successful people spend
Mhm.
10% of time, energy, and money on personal development.
Yes.
And that's why they're successful. And
Yes.
most people don't have that idea. That's why they're not successful.
Correct. Because when I heard so my most successful coaching programs were based on work that I've done on myself, and it took me, 2 or 5 years to complete X, and now I'm gonna do it with my clients in 3 months. Like, so shortening that
Yeah,
learning
yeah,
curve
yeah.
for other people, right?
That's right. Yeah.
And I think when I found that out, combined with the fact that only 5% of people do personal development and grow themselves from that perspective, I was like, well, that's a huge opportunity right there if 95% of people are not doing that
Yeah.
work. And I wonder, when you look at your history in coaching and high performance habits and all of that goodness, is the work that you do, the most rewarding piece of what you do? Is it the work that you've done on yourself as well?
Yeah, of course. It
Mm,
almost always is, actually. And
yeah.
my the big aha for me, that basically was, I think, the seed.
Mhm.
that was planted in me years and years before I started coaching in a very in much more structured, intentional way. Was I was literally at the top of my game as a pop star. I was doing sports arenas. I was in Eastern Europe and Russia, and literally Boris Yeltsin's presidential campaign used my song as the anthem for their fight against the communists who were winning at the time. They're leading in the polls. So I was like at the peak of my career. But there's parts of my character that was just deeply flawed and underdeveloped. So I was exceptionally good at music and
Mhm.
entertainment and all kinds related to that. I was terrible at relationships, at romantic relationships, and emotional self-management, right? Those three things, and there's more things that I was bad at, but those are the things that sort of came through the surface. And I just found myself literally clinically depressed while living the dream, right?
Mm.
And that really put it's still this image still drives me because I see extraordinarily gifted, wealthy, popular, skilled individuals, and most of them have high talent and high flaws.
Mhm.
It just sort of happens that way, right? And
Yeah.
it's nature and nurture, etc. Um, it doesn't matter what it comes from, but so their vulnerabilities actually start limiting their professional thing that they dedicated decades of their life to doing, and they become ineffective, uncreative, sort of start bleeding creative energy, you know?
Mhm.
And it happens all the time. It's endemic. It's everywhere. And I was like the poster boy for that. And it was not until I met this guy who was a pastor, Canadian pastor, that I was humble enough because I was super arrogant. Obviously, when you're massively popular at age 25, like
Yeah.
arrogance just oozes out of your pores, right? And I was just so sad that I was like, okay, I think I need to ask for help. And I
Mhm.
was having dinner with this guy and his family, and and I'm like, can you teach me the things that you know? How do I get what you have, basically? And he
Mhm.
was like, I can teach you. And it was like a switch came. First of all, I found someone who with ancient wisdom, profound multi-generational wisdom in the areas that I lacked.
Mhm.
Second, I found myself in a situation of complete humility and surrender because I said, "Look, how I've done this so far has not worked out for me." you know,
Mhm.
So I did it my way. I'll just trust this guy, basically.
Yeah.
And I said, "Please teach me because I need to learn this stuff, and the
Mhm.
pain is unbearable. I need to learn so the pain goes away." And and just submitting to this person, giving him my heart, my trust for an extended period of time literally changed the trajectory of my life.
Mm.
And I just realized, oh my gosh, even if you're extremely talented and driven,
Mhm.
you have vulnerabilities that can bring you down and slow you down and actually destroy you at some point. I mean, I have
Yeah.
several people who I've lost to suicide, really close, very, very, very famous people.
Mhm.
Um, but if you trust somebody to guide you, there are no limits to the things that you can do, and you can live a healthy, wealthy,
Yeah.
longer, happy life. If you just allow yourself to learn the things that you're not good at, and no one is good at everything. It just doesn't
Right.
exist, right?
Right. Well, I think that what you're saying is, you were aware enough of what you didn't know.
Yeah.
What would you say to somebody who's in that position right now? They know they're missing something, but they're not quite sure what they don't know. What would your advice be?
I would say stop what you're doing and figure it out, because
Mm,
that thing that's just under the surface that is blocking you is going to keep blocking you. Like,
mhm,
try harder is not it's almost never the right answer, you know? Do what you're
mhm,
doing, only harder. White knuckling it's called, right? It
yeah,
just doesn't work. And stopping and saying, "Okay, what am I missing exactly?" And then look for a resource, a person, um, a guide, and say, "Yes, I believe you are the person." and that's important because you have to
Yeah.
have faith in the person and go, I will trust you with my journey. Which I think the big thing for me was I really did that. That was the smartest thing I've done in my life, right? So
Mhm.
trust that guy who was just wise. And he fixed me, he healed me. All the things that I was bad at, I'm good at now, actually.
Mhm.
And to me that's a massive deal. And consider the cost of have you ever heard of the ignorance tax
Yes.
concept?
Yes.
The ignorance tax, right? The ignorance tax is, look, if you want to learn how to make $1 million and you're making 100,000, every year that you don't learn how to make $1 million, you're paying $900,000 of ignorance tax.
Right.
But it's true of everything. It's true of relationships and romance and
Mhm.
emotional self-management, whatever. Every year that you don't in an accelerated, focused way learn the thing that's causing you pain, you're multiplying the pain and the years that you spend in that.
Yes.
That is just true. So when people say I don't have a budget for coaching, yeah, but do you have a budget for ignorance tax?
Mhm.
And because the truth is you're paying either way.
Yeah, I wish I had known that at 24 when I was getting married for the second time. So, thanks for, you know, took me a
Hmm.
while to learn,
Yeah, yeah,
and all the things that I was bad at, I I wouldn't even attempt to add up how much that has cost me for not taking, I don't know, certain actions or asking for help. I mean, asking for help as an entrepreneur can be the hardest thing in the world. But gosh, if you don't ask, where do you end up?
yeah. And the thing is, it's never too late, right? You
Yes.
Because I think the older you get, the more the perception
Mhm.
of I should have my act together by now, and it's just the shame that comes with that. It's pretty
Yeah.
strong. I mean, there's things that I'm bad at now that I have a deep emotional regret of going, how come I have not figured this thing out? I'm
Mm.
55 years old. What the
Mhm.
heck?
Mhm.
I'm smart. I know how to learn. I I teach other people. And
Yeah.
this one thing is just not, it's just not getting better with me.
Mhm.
That comes with shame and guilt. And am I too old for this? This kind of thing. And I think it's never too late, honestly. And yes, I think it's better for sure to be proactive. I have three guys now in my coaching cohort who are in their like literally early 30s,
Mhm.
and I look at them and I go, "You guys are so smart! Oh my gosh, right?
Yeah.
You
Farther
guys are gonna,
along than us, right?
yeah, good for you, right?
Yes.
You're gonna change the trajectory. You're gonna fix some of those things, and it's
Mhm.
gonna accelerate your flourishing in ways you you have no idea how good this is for you, right?
Yeah.
Because you're doing it early. And then I have, clients who are in their mid 60s, and sometimes they sort of come with that, gosh, I can't believe I'm asking for help.
Mhm.
And I say to them, really? Is it, I mean, the best time to write a book is 10 years ago. Everybody knows that, right?
Yes.
So
But that
so
doesn't mean
what?
I'm still not gonna do one now, right?
Exactly.
Like, yeah,
I'm glad you're in the fight. I'm glad you're
yeah,
fixing this stuff. You have many years ahead, and I don't think you lose the ability to learn and be flexible and plastic. Um, Actually, at all, you really don't. There's nuances, the type of stuff you learn. There's
mhm,
science behind it, but the ability to dramatically transform your mind, your body, your life, your finances is available to you, and that's a
yeah.
beautiful, beautiful thing about human beings.
I love it. My good friend Deanna, she's asking, why is it so hard for entrepreneurs to ask for help?
Well, because you are the explorer
Mm,
of the business world. You're the person who, like 300 years ago, the entrepreneurs were the ones who would boarded ships, and like half of the ships
yeah,
would like sink on the way to the promised land. they don't even know the promised land exists, right? They're like, yeah, there's probably gold and spices there, and I'm gonna just do it,
Maybe,
And
maybe there's land out
yeah,
there.
maybe. Yeah, I don't even know. And we're probably gonna die. So that you kiss your wife goodbye and your children. And they might see you or not see you in like 5 years, maybe. So
Mhm.
entrepreneurs are the most passionate, the most intentional people, the most intense. They have faith, and
Yeah.
with that comes embedded a sense of independence, of pride, even because if you listen to everybody around you, you're never going to do the thing. So you teach yourself to not listen to everybody around you, and actually still do the thing,
Yes.
uh, and then
Yes.
it sort of backfires because now you're so independent, so driven that it's hard for you to go. So what does everybody think? I think this is not working very well right now.
Mhm. I love that because that's totally the definition of entrepreneurship in my mind, that, you know, everybody thinks you're crazy. "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
One of my friends 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago said, um, "What are you doing on the weekend?" I said, "Oh, I'm working on my book and the action plan that goes with the book." And she said, "Why? You're almost 60. Shouldn't you be retiring?" And oh my God, it was like a dirty word. I was like, "Oh, no, never, never." That's why I do what I do, so that I can continue, right?
That's right. Yeah.
And it was just this really interesting perspective, like, "Oh, she thinks I'm old and I should be getting ready to retire. Why would you wanna work that hard?" And I think what I'm doing is fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Such a different
Retirement is
perspective.
a horrible concept in the first place.
Horrible.
It's a concept that for thousands of years didn't even exist, right?
Mhm.
So, and it's, the American version of it is like you play golf with your buddies in Florida. Ugh, shoot me
Yeah,
now. It's just horrible.
yeah.
It's like slow death.
Mhm.
Uh, it's actually very bad for you
Agreed.
to that version of it. Now, ideally, if you're financially independent, you have to work for your money, but you still work, you still serve
Yeah.
people. That's financial independence is a really great goal to have. Retirement as stop bringing value to the world, that's a horrible
Mhm.
concept.
Yeah, agreed. Agreed. Perfect place to ask you about your branding work and how my listeners can get in touch with you
Okay, so if you want to follow some of the stuff that I bring on a regular basis,
or see your rock star videos.
oh, I mean, if you want to see my rockstar videos, go to YouTube and put in Christian Ray Flores, and you'll see a lot of '90s stuff there. It's a
So
lot of
good.
fun. It's in all
So
kinds of
good.
languages,
Yes.
uh, but that's just for your entertainment and amusement. If you want to follow me, christianrayflores.com is basically my Substack home, and I put out a newsletter every week on a Sunday. It's usually a combination of some text stuff that I love, books that I'm reading, movies that I'm watching. A lot of the times it includes the episode of my podcast on video or audio, and that's christianrayflores.com. It's free for, I think, for the first the last basically 3 weeks, I believe, are free, and then if you want to get access to the full archive, it's like the price of a latte a month. That's it. A lot of goodness there. I put a lot of work into it. We have, I think, close to 21,000 subscribers right now. That's if you're just generally curious. If you want to be, if you want to get serious about either coaching or personal brand development, I have a wait list, so I really don't have the capacity to take on a lot of clients, so I just take 7 at a time in my cohorts, and it's a combo of cohort plus one-on-one, so it's a hybrid. You can go to exponential.life without the E, the cool way to spell exponential with an
Yes.
X.
Yes.
Exponential Life is the exponential performance coaching um, website, but you can reach out, you can set up a strategy call. Like if it's a fit, you can just join the wait list and we'll let you know when there's a spot available.
Wonderful.
The branding stuff, you go to thirddrivemedia.com and you'll see the work we do. Basically, it's a fairly broad portfolio over the years. It's essentially nonprofits, churches, nonprofits, tech startups, And now sort of the latest wave is personal brand development for people like you and I, basically people
Mm,
who want to start their own brand, develop their own business. I'm really passionate about that because it's never been as profitable, as easy, and as important as it is now, literally in history,
mm,
to develop your own personal brand. And I think it's exceptionally important, even for people who go, yeah, well, I work at a big corporation, I'm just at this, but like a,
mm.
you know, senior management or whatever. I really think that anyone everywhere should have a personal brand because that's how you are known. It's basically reputation at scale. That's what
Yes,
it is. And
yes.
so there's no downside to it because it's you expressing your expertise, your passion to the world, whether you are just part of a big corporation or you're solopreneur or whatever, right? Um, and there's no downside. The
Mhm.
reason why people don't do it is fear. It's because they do not want to put their name, a standby, a statement, a set of values, set of insights, for fear that people will either not be interested or ridicule them or reject them, which is completely a shake the shark situation. Okay.
Yeah,
Like shake the shark.
it's one of the core human
Yeah.
fears to be rejected and thrown out
Yeah.
of your
Yeah.
tribe,
Yeah,
right?
and it's basically not real, you know?
Yeah.
It's just not real. Uh, I don't care who you are. If you're passionate about your thing, you're gonna find a small group of the 66 billion people on the planet
Mhm.
who will love your thing specifically, and that is
Absolutely,
worth investing in, you know? Even if it's
absolutely.
1,000 people only, it's totally worth investing. There's no downside to it. It obviously it takes effort and energy and
Mhm.
but it's a wonderful thing. It really, really is.
Yeah, so worth the ride. Thank you, Christian, for joining me today. I appreciate you.
STK, thank you for inviting me. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Have an awesome weekend, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this conversation, and we'll see you next Friday.